The movie begins with a scene on a bridge where we see reporters and police officers watching a couple who is paragliding and coming dangerously close to the bridge. It looks like a boy is trying to push a girl down from above, and the girl is pleading for help. Then, we see a police inspector running toward them. She arrives and takes them both into custody. The inspector then questions the girl, asking her to tell the truth about what the boy did to her. The story then flashes back to a hill station where we see a new police recruit named Vidya. She's an inspector, and we see her talking to her colleague. Just then, the power goes out and she is called by her senior officer to his cabin. After that, her senior officer tells her, "It's very cold here. You'll need to get used to it. I also know why you've been transferred so many times. You're such an honest police officer that you never leave any task unfinished, but the people around you don't think like you do. So you keep getting moved from one police station to another." He says, "Because of your honesty, I'm giving you a patrolling duty." Vidya understands that this isn't a great assignment, but she heads back to her cabin after listening to her senior's lecture. She gets a call about a domestic violence case. Vidya then goes to their house and knocks on the door. She finds a woman named Soumya there, along with Lady. When Vidya questions them, Soumya nervously tells Vidya, "Nothing happened. Maybe a neighbor called. I just bumped into a cupboard. There's nothing going on at home." But she looks frightened, and after saying this, she quickly shuts the door on Vidya. A constable arrives at Vidya's house, reminding her that it's time to go to the station. Vidya is packing her food. We learn that Vidya is a very strict police officer who strictly follows the rulebook. She once even sent her own brother to jail for 6 months because he broke the law. Vidya's strong sense of justice comes from her father, who was a judge, and her mother, who was a lawyer. Vidya also has a law degree, which she proudly displays in her room, though she chose to work as a police officer instead. She's currently single. She was engaged once, but she broke a pot on her fiancé's head after discovering he was involved in an extramarital affair. The constable then tells Vidya there's some trouble at the paragliding point. They head to the location, where a woman is arguing with the staff who manage the paragliding. Before the police can step in, Dhruv's suit arrives. Dhruv looks like a hero. He approaches the woman, calms her down, and settles everything peacefully. It turns out he owns the paragliding business. Constable then tells Vidya that the house where they received the domestic violence complaint belongs to Dhruv, and the complaint was about his wife. Hearing this, Vidya decides to investigate further. She goes to shop, looking around for clues and trying to find Soumya's suit. Finally, she sees Soumya, who asks Vidya if she needs any help. But soon after, another woman approaches Vidya from behind, looking exactly like Soumya. Vidya is shocked to see the identical appearance of the two women. When she steps outside, she meets a woman who explains that they are twin sisters. Vidya is surprised, wondering which sister she actually saw that day. She reveals, "I was the one who called you from the house that day." Dhruv will kill Soumya, but she can't make a complaint because she doesn't want to lose to her sister. Then, we see a flashback of their past. Many years ago, she came to their house as a maid to take care of the twin sisters. Soon, she became very attached to them, especially because their father was an alcoholic. Soumya was a scared child, while her sister Shaili was straightforward and bold. When the girls were just 8 years old, their mother passed away. After their mother's death, the girls' father paid them no attention, lost in his drinking. Soumya needed extra care because she was physically weaker and even used an inhaler. Shaili didn't like this and felt Soumya was faking it for extra attention. As twins, they often fought, but their father decided to send Shaili to boarding school. Before leaving, Shaili was furious with Soumya and said, "I'll be back for you. You're staying here now, but I won't let you win in life." Sometime later, their father passed away, but even then, Shaili didn't come home, not even during school breaks. Soumya grew up in the family home, and after her studies, she started helping in the family shop. Soumya would visit the new paragliding spot daily. One day, while taking pictures, she meets Dhruv, a handsome and confident man. Dhruv charms her with his friendly words, asking her why she's just watching the clouds when she could actually touch them. Soumya starts to trust him, and he convinces her to try paragliding. As they glide together, Soumya recalls memories of her childhood, when she, her mother, and her sister would gaze at the clouds together. After they land, she turns to hug Dhruv, thanking him for helping her fulfill a dream. Their relationship gradually grows closer, though Soumya is cautious and a bit reserved. However, their friendship deepens over time. One day, Soumya brings Dhruv to her family's shop to meet everyone. She's very happy, but as they chat, a car stops outside. To her surprise, Shaili steps out of the car. It's the first time in years that Soumya has seen her, and she's stunned by how perfectly alike they still look as twins. Shaili, dressed in modern clothes, confidently interacts with everyone, just as she used to. Dhruv seems slightly attracted to her, and they exchange a few words. which leaves Soumya feeling a bit sad. Later, Shaili speaks privately with her sister and asks about Dhruv, teasing that he seems like her type and asking Soumya to introduce them properly. She jokes that they'd make a great pair, which makes Soumya feel even more disheartened. Soumya's quiet nature makes her hesitant to express her feelings for Dhruv, and she keeps her emotions to herself. She can sense that Shaili is drawing Dhruv away from her. Soon Shaili begins to get closer to Dhruv. Their relationship gradually becomes more intimate, and Soumya, heartbroken, watches from afar, unable to do anything. One evening, Dhruv is hosting a meeting outside his house with a tourism minister to secure a major business deal worth 500 crore. Meanwhile, Shaili throws a loud DJ party inside the house, with blaring music and drinks. Unfortunately, the minister witnesses this scene and, disappointed, decides to cancel the meeting, saying they can discuss the deal later. That night, Dhruv sits alone. His father calls him angrily, accusing him of living off the family's wealth. He tells Dhruv to abandon his reckless lifestyle, settle down with a suitable girl, and focus on the business. The conversation leaves Dhruv feeling trapped and humiliated. The next morning, Dhruv, looking for clarity, asks Soumya to join him for a paragliding session. Up in the sky, he opens up, saying he's tired of running from responsibilities. He expresses his desire for Soumya to be his life partner. Soumya agrees, feeling hopeful about their future together. However, Shaili confronts Dhruv, claiming it's not that he didn't marry her that bothers her, but that he chose her sister over her, which she cannot accept and won't let Soumya win so easily. At Dhruv and Soumya's wedding, Shaili arrives dressed identically to Soumya, positioning herself beside Dhruv in the family photos. Her resemblance to Soumya is so uncanny that it's hard to tell who is who. Soumya is trying to cope with the situation, but things are made worse when Shaili, using an excuse that her own house is under renovation, moves into Soumya's in-laws' house. Shaili's presence complicates the situation even more. Vidya advises Maji that, unless Soumya makes a formal complaint about her husband's violence, no real action can be taken. She is further advised to capture any evidence of the abuse, photos, or videos, so that they can have proof to act on. Back in the present day, we see the minister sitting down for dinner. However, there is an issue with the food. Soumya might have accidentally added too much chili. The minister, after eating, starts choking and his mouth burns from the spice. He spits out the food in disgust. This incident causes Dhruv to lash out in anger. In the kitchen, he grabs Soumya by her hair, twisting her arm and berating her with cruel words. After the incident, Soumya continues to endure the abuse in silence. Despite being urged by Vidya to report the domestic violence, Soumya refuses, choosing to lie and say that she simply fell and injured herself. Later, Dhruv apologizes for his behavior and Soumya forgives him. Despite the violence and emotional manipulation, Soumya seems trapped in a toxic cycle, unable to break free from Dhruv's hold on her. The tension continues to build, and the situation becomes even more complicated when Maji and Shaili go out to the market. When Soumya expresses her desire to start a family, Dhruv shuts her down, saying that he's too focused on his business to have children and implying that she should think more about her goals in life. He also criticizes his choice of wife, telling her that he made a mistake marrying her. This hurts Soumya deeply, and she loses control, accusing Dhruv of only marrying her because he wanted a domestic wife. She also points out his inability to manage his business. Dhruv, infuriated by her words, becomes violent and beats her severely. In a fit of rage, he pushes her down the stairs, leaving Soumya in a critical condition. He then leaves the house, leaving her battered. However, Soumya, despite her pain, manages to get up, clean herself, and cover her bruises with makeup. Meanwhile, Maji confronts Dhruv again, warning him that if he hurts Soumya once more, she will go to the police. Dhruv, however, brushes off her threats, claiming that Soumya is mentally unstable and on medication for depression, implying that she's the one who's unfit to handle the relationship. He further threatens that his father will handle everything, making it clear that he believes he can avoid any consequences. When Shaili comes to visit, she finds Soumya in this fragile state and remains unconvinced, thinking that Soumya is just pretending. Despite this, Shaili takes the shop keys and leaves. Meanwhile, Inspector Vidya continues to observe and gathers more evidence about Dhruv's abuse. The tension escalates when both Soumya and Dhruv are called to the police station. Soumya denies all allegations of abuse, claiming that the injuries were accidental and that they had nothing to do with domestic violence. To Dhruv's relief, Soumya lies to the police, clearing him of any wrongdoing. She also mentions that she is pregnant, which Dhruv wasn't aware of. Despite his earlier anger, Dhruv agrees to the situation and goes along with the lie. Later that night, Dhruv thanks Soumya for protecting him and promises to change his ways. Soumya agrees to give their relationship another chance. She suggests that they start fresh and go on a new journey together. Dhruv, seemingly agreeing, tells her that they should make a fresh start, and they plan to go to a paragliding the next day after Holi. While they were paragliding, Dhruv unbuckled Soumya's safety belt. Soumya began shouting for help. All the visitors saw this and were shocked. The police arrived at the scene and saved Soumya. When Soumya revealed the truth in court, with the video evidence and other witnesses supporting her, Dhruv's wrongdoings came to light. However, Dhruv continued to deny his actions, claiming Soumya was mentally ill and that her statements were false. But Vidya responded firmly, proving that if Soumya were mentally ill, she would not have been able to open her own harness, especially since she was afraid of heights. With this reasoning and the evidence presented, the court found Dhruv guilty and sentenced him to 13 years in prison. This victory was a huge relief, but Vidya felt an internal dissatisfaction. As everyone praised Vidya for her efforts, she felt unsettled inside. The case seemed to resolve easily, as all the evidence had been placed right in Vidya's hands, making it appear as though the truth had been effortlessly uncovered. But Vidya wasn't convinced. It felt like there was something missing, so she continued searching for more evidence. Meanwhile, Maji was talking to Shaili, who confessed that what she did was justified, as both sisters were deeply connected, and one would always support the other in times of trouble. In a flashback, we see Soumya cleaning her mother's photo, expressing guilt for her mother's death and fearing for her own life. Knowing that Dhruv might not face punishment, she thought her children would suffer after her. Shaili realized that her sister was mentally deteriorating, something that Soumya had never shown before. She also understood that Dhruv had been physically abusive towards Soumya, which contributed to her sister's fragile state. Determined to help her, Shaili decided to take action. While Vidya couldn't find more evidence, she confronted Dhruv to ask about the details of the day they went to the paragliding point. Dhruv hesitated, but said that they had stopped at a shop to get an inhaler. This detail gave Vidya the clue she needed, and she realized something was off. Vidya pieced it together. When Soumya got out of the car to go into the shop, it wasn't her who came out, but Shaili, disguised to look like Soumya. Since Shaili wasn't afraid of heights, she wasn't scared when the harness was tampered with. Vidya also learned that both women had gone to the bathroom together before the medical checkup, where they swapped clothes. This led everyone to believe that the woman who went paragliding was Soumya, telling Dhruv that he had missed the chance to save himself by not speaking the truth in court. She then left, heading straight to Soumya's house to bring her the good news. After entering Soumya's house, Vidya sees Shaili and promises that she will reopen the case and ensure that all three of them, Maji, Shaili, and Soumya, will face. Shaili tells her if she proceed with this, Soumya may not survive, as Dhruv could have her killed. Despite the danger, Soumya decides to speak up about the domestic violence her mother suffered and the trauma she and her family endured. She explains how her mother had been abused by her father, and even though they couldn't do anything at the time, Soumya couldn't stay silent anymore. Soumya confesses that her silence contributed to her mother's death and that they were all responsible for it. Vidya listens, but after hearing Soumya's confession, she decides not to present the evidence. Vidya realizes that while the rulebook says one should always stand for the truth, those with power often misuse the law. The film ends with a social message, showing the complexities of power, truth, and justice, with a call to always stand for what's right even when the system is flawed. Please subscribe to my channel.